Hey, stop for just a second. They didn't show up for you. The men in your life, they did not show up for you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it happened over and over and over again. One after one, they didn't do the project that they promised you. They didn't show up to the event. They didn't show up in your life. They abandoned you. They neglected you. They treated you poorly. They didn't show up for you. And over and over and over again, because that first one didn't show up for you, it rewrote your entire idea of how men show up or how they don't show up. But they didn't show up for you. And there's a pain there that needs to be healed. There's even ancestral things that need to be healed, of generations of men not showing up for the people in your family, for the women in your family, for the men in your family. Repetitive patterns of not showing up. And then on an even deeper level, past life patterns, where in those lives, they didn't show up for you then either. And those ancestral patterns along that lineage, where they didn't show up. But here's the thing. Some of them do. Some of them do show up. I know this. I have one in my life, and he shows up for me all the time. Not everyone is like the rest, and it just takes one to break that pattern. And it just takes you to be able to see it, to be able to welcome that in, to realize that that's not forever your narrative. I'm sorry that they haven't shown up for you. I'm sorry that they've been inconsistent. I'm sorry that they've walked away, that they've abandoned you. You didn't deserve that. You never deserved that. And the way that life works is it repeats patterns over and over and over until we heal them. We have to heal them for ourselves. We have to heal them for our ancestors, for our mothers and grandmothers and brothers and sisters and everybody. When they talk about generational curse breakers, when they talk about breaking the chain, they're talking about you. They're talking about you deciding to heal that. You know, Mary Magdalene, one of Jesus's most intimate friends, many believe to be his intimate partner, his wife in some cases, depending on the books that you look back on and what you believe to be truth. That spirit coming in here. One sec. Whew. As I was saying, Mary Magdalene, she was very close with Jesus. She's called the apostle of the apostles. She was the one that was there for the entire death of Jesus, and she was the one that found him at the tomb and delivered the message, had the vision and the conversation, and delivered the message to the rest of the disciples. But Jesus had a job, and Jesus had to do his job. And she couldn't go everywhere because of the times, the culture. And so her dearest friend, her closest companion, Jesus, had to leave a lot. And sometimes she came with, and sometimes she didn't. And when her brother Lazarus died, Jesus didn't show up for her right away. In fact, it even talks about in the Bible that he heard about it and he still stayed away a couple more days. Imagine the pain that you would feel with someone as perfect and beautiful as Jesus, who is just serving his calling, serving God, doing what he was asked by God, doing nothing malicious whatsoever, and that just his job in serving God could cause so much pain for Mary to not even want to leave her home when she heard that he was in town. She waited until he called for her to go. I'm telling you, that woman was in pain because she felt like Jesus didn't show up for her. And then when he died on the cross, he abandoned her then too. But he didn't choose that. He did, but he didn't. It was his calling. It was what he was meant to do. It was what was meant to happen. And can you imagine that if Jesus had stayed, if he hadn't died on that cross, if he hadn't waited those few days for Lazarus to be considered truly dead, after that third day, they considered that the soul leaves the body at that time. If Jesus had stayed and showed up for Mary in that way, think of how different our world would be. Sometimes people don't show up for us because they're not meant to. Because they're meant to do something else, be somewhere else, do something else. It didn't mean that Mary didn't deserve to have someone show up for her, to stay. It just meant that God had a different plan. And what a beautiful plan God had for Jesus, right? What a beautiful plan God had. Because Jesus dying on that cross has impacted so many people's lives. Some it has impacted in a not great way because of religious trauma, and others, many, it has impacted in the most profound and significant ways. But perhaps in Mary Magdalene's eyes, for even just a moment, she felt that Jesus didn't show up, that the men in her life didn't show up for her. So I'm so sorry that people haven't shown up for you, but that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and their path. And it's your job to heal and understand that some people do show up, and sometimes they show up in different ways. And that out of your pain, some beautiful things can still happen. Not just for you, but for others too. Take some time to heal these wounds for yourself, for your ancestors, for your past lives, so that these cycles can be interrupted. It's not your fault that they didn't show up. You didn't do anything to make them not want to show up. They didn't for whatever reason. And the reason, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that you don't carry that pain with you. Break that cycle so the universe and God can bring in something even more beautiful, a better cycle. You deserve people to show up for you. I love you.